house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother Over the Top updates and spoilers. Our house guest of the day is Joy, and happy birthday to you. Hope you're having an amazing day, and if you guys want to be house guests of the day like the birthday girl Joy, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. Alright, so yesterday they had the Power Veto competition. It was hosted by Whitney, and the players in the order that they competed were Morgan, Neely, Chrissy, Shelby, Scott, and Justin. Because guess what? It was an individually timed competition. Gotta love those. I think they're a lot of fun. So the maximum time for this competition was 30 minutes per person. It was called Wall of Shame, which was funny because I saw Shane's picture at first and I thought they were saying Wall of Shane, which would have just been hilarious, especially because Danielle wasn't competing. But anyway, for this competition, they had to climb across this rock wall to reveal 3 questions. There was one for each of the evicted house guests. So the questions were really easy. They were like, how many votes to evict were there against Cornbread? How many people were eliminated before Shane in the Live by the Sword competition? And the other one was about Monty, like what day he was nominated by America. So they had to answer these questions. All of the answers were numbers, of course, and they could only bring back 1 tile at a time. There was a 3-minute penalty anytime your feet touched the ground. So you gotta stay up on that rock wall. But that rock wall was really cutting up people's hands, and Chrissy was super dramatic about it. It was a bore. I mean, she was like, I'm bleeding, does anyone care? And then she was trying to quit. She knew that she wasn't gonna win, and Big Brother wouldn't let her. She had to let it time out, had to wait the whole 30 minutes. And she was just like, you guys are leaving me out here to rot. Like, what is this? What am I doing here? So, yeah, she timed out, as did Justin. Justin was really good on the rock wall. He was actually the best. He was walking like sideways, like a normal walk. It was really weird. But he didn't know the answers to the question, so he also ended up timing out. And then Scott was waiting for the results in the storage room. You know, they're all held in different rooms when it's an individually timed comp. So he was waiting for the results, and he's talking to the camera, and he's like, I'm a machine fueled by rage, and I have more debts to settle. And he was like saying all these things that you would like think somebody was yelling, but he was like saying them normally, and it just felt like really fake, like he was just trying to play it up for the camera, which was kind of annoying. But I think he had a good feeling that, you know, he had a good shot at winning this competition, so he was like really pumped up. So then it was time to reveal the results, and like I said, Justin and Chrissy were disqualified. They went the whole 30 minutes, didn't finish the competition, and then everybody else, Scott's time was 8 minutes 51 seconds, Shelby came in at 12:18, Neely's time would have been 20:15, but she had 2 penalties, so that added 6 minutes onto her time for a total of 26:15. And then Morgan, Whitney pulled it away slowly. We saw, oh my god, it's also in the 8-minute range. Her time was 8 minutes and 35 seconds, which means that Morgan won the Power Veto. Okay, so then it's time to strategize, because obviously that POV is getting used on somebody. So Jason, Chrissy, and Neely are strategizing, and they want to ensure that Scott's going to be going home this week. It's a little bit scary for them with Neely up on the block. You don't know what America's going to do. So then they're like, okay, we'll put up Whitney in Morgan's place, and we'll make sure that Justin sticks to the plan and gets rid of Scott this week, because they're afraid if they put up Shelby, Justin's going to be like, I hate her, and vote her out. So they're not even thinking about Justin voting out Neely at this point, which is interesting. Alright, so then the Ball Smashers are having their own little powwow, and they're thinking maybe they could flip Justin to vote out Neely. They know that he hates the witch hat. They know that he has said before to their faces that he wants to get out Neely soon because he doesn't trust her. So they want to work on that. They want to have Whitney approach him one-on-one, because Whitney and Justin are very close, and they want to tell him that he can pin his vote on America and kind of hide behind that, which is a strategy that they've tried before and it didn't work to convince anybody, but they're thinking maybe it'll work this time because they want to use it to get rid of Neely, and Justin doesn't like her. So then Scott has a little bit of a different plan. He wants to pick fights all week with Danielle because he thinks that this is going to help win him favor with America because the feedsters don't like her. I don't think that's a good idea, but he got working on this plan right away in the kitchen, and he was like, so this is the first competition that you couldn't compete in, Danielle, and you didn't even get to watch it. That sucks. So then Danielle's like, yeah, but I got to sleep, so it was like, great. So Scott was like, oh, so it's just another day then. So then Jason jumps in, he's like, are you saying that all Danielle does is sleep, Scott? And Scott says, yes. Ah! So then Danielle's like, oh, be careful, I'm voting this week. And Scott says, yeah, but like I know you're not going to vote for me anyway. And then Jason says, yeah, well, we know you're a dick, so. Whoa! All right. So then Danielle says, Scott, just for the record, Shane wasn't calling you a puppet master in his speech because you're not smart enough. He was talking about Alex. Now, this part is disgusting. He said, and when he said, open your mouth, it was because he was pretending to... in it. I'm not saying that. Basically, she's saying that Shane told Scott to open his mouth so he could put his baby batter in there. Great. That's disgusting. You should be really proud of that. But anyway, they go back and forth about speeches that have been recited a little bit more. Mom is so horrified right now. Justin is laughing throughout this whole exchange because it's just like, what the hell is happening right now? This is so freaking random. So then Danielle's like, I can't wait for you to go home, Scott. Everyone's voting for you to go home. And Scott's like, well, that's news to me. Scott, keep your mouth shut. So then a couple minutes later, Danielle goes into the Tokyo room with her food. Scott follows her, drinking his protein shake that he just shook. He shook that shake for like 10 minutes, and it was super annoying on purpose. So then they get into it a little bit more about the first week when there was that hinky vote in there, you know, arguing over if it was somebody in the house or if it was America. So then Justin eventually tells them, like, you guys need to just freaking cut it out. I'm gonna have to take off my belt in a minute. Like, whoa! Dad's gonna, like, knock some sense into them. But anyway, he's still, you know, going on with this. He's like, I'm just hanging out with my BB fam. Again, poking fun at one of Shane's speeches when he said not everybody here is in his BB fam, you know, only the cool kids. But anyway, a little while later, Scott, Alex, and Whitney are having a game chat, and they're telling Scott, like, you need to chill out and lay low because with all this bullshit, you're at risk of pushing Justin away. That's exactly what we don't want. He doesn't want all that drama, so, like, stop. So Scott's like, okay, I'll do whatever you guys want, and he says he knew when Julie announced that it was going to be a Final 3 this season that he would have no chance of winning, so now his goal is to help the girls get further in the game. He wants to do everything he can to help them out. And you know what? I think that he actually means that, which is like crazy, and I wish he didn't mean that because that's just sad if you like play the game for somebody else. But he's said in his little like monologues and stuff that he wants to help the girls out. Scott, freaking wake up and play your own game. But anyway, Jason and Shelby had a chat in the bathroom area, and you could tell Jason's getting really pissed this week. Things are not going his way. He thought he had America with him all the way. Doesn't look like it now. So he's definitely frustrated with the plastics as well, and he tells Shelby, like, your group is always lying about who they're voting for, so, like, how can we ever trust you? And Shelby's like, you can't trust anyone in this game. So, like, what does it matter? She also says, no one even asked her about her vote. I don't know what you're talking about. So then Jason is definitely fishing for information in this conversation. So many rhymes. He's trying to figure out if their group is going to try to vote out Neely this week or if they're going to go with what Chrissy wants and get rid of Scott. Why would they do that? So then the late night jamboree are having a strategy sesh up in the HOH room, and Jason is like reporting back about his conversation with Shelby, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if those hookahs are going to vote out Neely or what. So then they're wondering, like, could we get Morgan to use the power of veto on Neely? Come on! Are you freaking kidding me? So they're thinking of, like, deals they could offer her, like, take Neely off the block this week, and, like, we'll never put you up next week. really? Like, no. Anyway, so then they're like, okay, that wouldn't work. So then they're thinking maybe we will put up Shelby as the replacement instead of Whitney, because earlier this week, Whitney had promised, along with Morgan, that she would vote however Chrissy wants this week if they're not the targets. So they're like, maybe we should cash in on that and get Whitney and Morgan to vote Scott out, because that's what Chrissy wants. So then there was a really interesting conversation last night between Morgan and Alex in the storage room. These two are kind of like getting a little tense here. First of all, Morgan wants Shelby up on the block as the replacement. Here's why. So just like I said a minute ago, Morgan and Whitney promised Chrissy that they would vote however she wants this week as long as they're not the targets. So Morgan wants Whitney to vote this week because her side is telling her, like, we need to try to keep Scott this week. We're going to vote out Neely. So Morgan doesn't want to be the only one in that deal going against Chrissy. She doesn't want Chrissy to freak out on her if she votes out Neely. So she wants to make sure that that Whitney is also voting with her. So then Alex keeps telling her, like, well, you should have done some damage control, and, like, you kind of messed up there, and Morgan is like, I'm gonna punch you right now. So then Morgan is also worried about Scott staying this week because she feels like out of their group, she is Scott's #1 target. She thinks that he holds the other girls above her, which is true. And she's worried that Alex is gonna choose Scott over her, and a conversation that they had earlier yesterday did not help because Alex had the guts to tell Morgan that she should use the power of veto on Scott instead of herself. Are you freaking kidding? What is wrong with these people? Like, Morgan was like, there's no effing way I'm doing that. I'm using it on myself. So she was pissed about that, and she was like, you better not freaking get rid of me for Scott at some point, because she's going to be really angry and she's going to go out of the house yelling that they're sisters and that Alex is a liar. So there's a little bit of tension between Alex and Morgan right now. Also, Morgan feels like keeping Neely is better for her game and keeping Scott is better for Alex's game. So I don't know. I think in the end, Morgan is going to vote however Alex tells her to, honestly. But anyway, Whitney and Justin were talking in the lounge room, and we saw earlier that they want Whitney to try and push Justin to vote with them this week. So Whitney's like, you should tell people that you're voting Scott out, but then actually vote Neely out. And Justin, you know, he loves Whitney. He's like, oh, we'll see. He's a little non-committal about it. But later on, he tells his group, like, I think I want to vote Neely out. And they're like, no, you need to vote Scott out. So they do end up convincing him to vote Scott out instead of Neely for the time being. We'll see. This morning, Whitney and Justin are talking again. He says, I'm going to vote Scott out and leave it up to America. And Whitney's like, yeah, but if America votes Scott out too, like, it's not going to matter. But anyway, Justin is saying it could be a tie, so he's going to leave it up to America. You know what I mean? All right. So anyway, Morgan and Chrissy are chatting in the HOH room. God, Chrissy is really milking this hand injury. It's like a couple of freaking blisters. You need to get a grip. No pun intended. All right. So then Chrissy is saying again, Scott has to go this week. Morgan's asking who's going to go up as the replacement nominee. Chrissy says she's leaning towards Whitney. And then Morgan again promises that she's going to vote Scott out this week. I don't think she is. But then Morgan was talking to Scott in the storage room. She can't just like stick her neck out there for him and get nothing in return. So she's like, I'll vote to keep you, but I'm going to need something from you. So Scott's like, honestly, Alex is my #1. But you can be my #2. Isn't that funny that now he's got like both sisters, left hand, right hand? It's wild. But he says it works out perfectly because there's a final 3 this season. Wouldn't that be like weird as hell if it was the 2 sisters and Scott? It'd be crazy. So anyway, Morgan feels good about that. She will accept that deal. So then it was time for the power of veto meeting. They do their little speeches. Scott's like, I don't expect you to use it on me, blah, 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 blah. Neely's speech was literally just ditto. What? Come on. So then Morgan ends up using it on herself, of course, and Whitney was nominated in her place, which means it's Whitney versus Scott versus Neely. So let me know in the comments who you guys are voting for to go home this week. And until tomorrow, should be interesting. Much love.